Welcome, one and all, to the Proving Grounds. We are here in day number 2 of this wonderful competitive event here. I'm Mazel, joined by Joshi and Magical today.
Wait, you want a surprise visitor really quick? Come here.
Okay. What do you got? What do you have?
Is it your niece?
My niece.
Hello.
Hey, okay,
Hello,
that's
niece.
the surprise visitor I'll take all day. Hi!
Her name's Violet.
Hi, Violet.
She brought me a cookie.
I thought you were going to bring on some like wacky characters that you're going to put on like some head. No, I'll take that surprise.
She's so sweet. She brought in to bring me a cookie. Thank you, Violet.
Aww.
So sweet.
All right, we know you need the energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, big Violet stands here. But anyways, we got to get down to it because we got a day full of action here. 2 best of 3s. But before we get to that, we got to talk a little bit about what's been going on in the community, as we always do. And first and foremost, it's the update of Champions Queue here as our Mayo and Arrow fight for that top spot there, Joshi.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to me how different Champions Queue is this time around than it was in its previous incarnation in spring, whereas, you just got set number of points for every win and loss, but now that it's this MMR system, it's so crazy how much movement we're currently seeing, right? I remember when Busio was at number 1 with like a 70% win rate, Copy was at the top of the ladder not that long ago, and now it's Armeo and Arrow just duking it out.
I absolutely love to see the at least representation of the Academy squads there in that top 10, even rounding it out of that top 20. You have any thoughts on that Champions Queue there, Magical?
Busio, what happened, bro? You were number 1 just like a couple days ago, and now you're falling to 20th. What happened? Are you playing too much Camille support? Is that what's going on?
No. Oh no! I don't know if
you do that to him. He's doing so well.
I know. Just put down Busio just because. Okay, we'll look back at Busio.
I have to meme him. I have to meme him a bit. He's been spamming about Camille support and wanting to play it so bad. I'm like, I gotta do it.
All right. Well, we'll check in on Busio a little bit later on in the Champions Queue stand and see if he can make up and redeem in Magical's eyes. But we also have Proving Grounds going, and that's why you're here. That's why we're all here. And if you don't know what Proving Grounds is, well, we got a nice little explanation here for you, because Proving Grounds is the end-all be-all for developmental tournament in North American development. It's where all the teams, at least 10 from Amateur, 10 from Academy, go to battle, and somebody comes away with victorious medallions in the end. And it's a gigantic tournament chock full of double elimination after the first round, after the play-ins, and we're into that actual first round here. It's a fun time all around.
Yeah, we got rid of the Academy playoffs for this, right? We wanted to make sure we had opportunities to see how they do up against the amateur teams, give the amateur teams opportunities to play up against the Academy teams, because for a long time, we had this big question, how different is it between amateur and Academy and LCS? And as we've been saying, when it first started, when Proving Grounds first came around last year, difference wasn't that big, but I feel as though recently the difference between Academy and Amateur has been significantly growing.
Agreed. You can see the differences just in a lot of the bottom tier amateur teams, like even comparing those to the bottom tier teams in Academy, there's such a giant difference, and that has more to do with the fact that the ecosystems, right? Where you have amateur teams that don't have quite the staff behind them that Academy teams do, so you would expect that to be the result, that a team with more behind it, more active plays and ways to make sure each and every player is growing, should be just a level above their amateur counterparts.
Yeah, the structure, as you said, the organizations behind it's such a different level, and that's why we do hold the Academy teams at a different standard comparatively. And so keeping a little bit of that thought going forward into the tournament and seeing where we get those upsets, where we get those craziness. But in the play-ins, we got a little bit of tried and true for PG. It was Amateur falling out holistically in the play-ins, but we did have some honorable mentions that we wanted to highlight in terms of players that you got to keep your eye on as we go further, Joshi.
Yeah, there's a lot of players that we were saying coming in from the play-ins that even if their teams didn't do as well as they hoped, we know we're likely to see these guys again. And one of the players that I had always had my eyes on is somebody I was expecting to see in Academy this split. Unfortunately got knocked out in the play-ins, and that's Faisal. Faisal was looking so good across the board. We knew that he was looking to get ready for the next level, and we think that he has an opportunity to potentially come up to the next level very soon. He just needs to find a better team and a team that is willing to pick him up.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's just next year with how well he's playing in the top lane, even when camped pretty heavily. He's always able to find these plays, kind of communicate with the team. But the biggest thing was just how to enact the mid game. That really started to fall short for EGP. And I don't really put that all on Faisal. I think Faisal was doing great with what he had to do, flanking a lot of these fights, trying to create a menace in a different lane.
Yeah, and then you look at DK Crew here, Joshi, as well. Shorter race.
Shorter Race was one of the players that I remember first seeing come onto the scene, right? The wonder kid of Washington, Lee Sin Savant for a long time. And then he had an opportunity to play over at Oceania before coming right on back. And now he's trying to find his way into the academy scene here in North America. And based on the performances we were seeing yesterday, definitely feels as though he's close to ready.
It's funny for me looking at Shorter Race because he is so young. He's so young of a player, yet he has had such a storied career. And then we take a look at the other two that we have as honorable mentions. Town. Akali is fantastic. Every single time I watch it, it's just a pleasure. And APA, I mean, I thought they were going to take it with his Xerath. His Xerath was disgusting.
I was looking at that Ziggs, man. That Ziggs was looking
No, the Xerath, man.
Nasty.
He
The
couldn't
Xerath
miss
was pretty good.
a skill shot
Hey,
on Xerath. Couldn't miss.
The thing... the thing that you can always expect with APA is that he will pick out the comfort. He will throw a wrench in the works of your team. So got to give some appreciation to all those players. Definitely keep your eyes on the growth of these players into the next season.
Oh, do we have to give an honorable mention to Kungus? God rest his soul. You know, I am also.
I guess.
Hey, hold on.
We
I
can
got props.
bring that
I got
up as
props
well.
for it. Yeah, I got props for
You know,
it.
getting
You
it
got props?
eliminated
You got
in real
props?
life.
Yeah, so
he did get
in honor of
eliminated.
Kungus, I put some
no.
wrist weights on. You know, got that. Let's see. I told you I was going to try to kick high. Let's see how well I can do this.
Oh no, Joey.
He's got.
Okay, I saw a foot. I saw a foot.
Oh,
I
I saw a
got it.
foot. There was a foot there.
I got the
There
ankle
was a
weights on
foot.
too.
Well,
Proud of
hey,
you,
at
proud of
least
you.
in honor of Kungus, we'll get a little bit of exercise. We'll get a little bit of movement.
Yeah, you got to fill the weights with his ashes.
What do you think they're filled with?
I feel.
What,
you
you
know,
didn't think that they were already filled with that?
It's okay, Len. Don't worry.
Yeah, we're gonna. We have to check in with that. We'll see what happened to Kungus because I thought he was downstairs. We have an
that's
urn, but
Kangas.
apparently you
That's
came and stole.
Oh, yeah.
No, we had an urn. We have a beautiful.
Oh, I broke in.
Beautiful setup for Kungus.
I broke
okay,
in.
Anyways.
Yeah.
He was just over at your house like a couple of days ago. You knew
Yeah,
about that.
okay. Well, I was working. Anyways, we got to go ahead and look at Amateur versus Academy because it's a popular question among our analysts as well as the community. Because how many wins will Amateur get over Academy teams? Did you see? There's a wide spectrum here. I'll start with that sentence. Magic.
Yep.
AKA talking about you at 3, and then talking about Smacks at 10. Quite a large gulf there.
Just a little bit. Joshi, you have any thoughts on the standings? At least that's what we have. One win for Academy.
We already
so
have
far.
one win. We always knew that Maryville versus TSM was going to be a banger. We always knew that was going to be tightly contested. However, I think Magical's a little bit too high. You're a little bit too low. You got to be just right.
Josh,
And
you haven't even seen.
Not Goldilocks and Three Bears. We did that in Academy.
Your bracket is the most crazy thing I've ever seen, Alex.
Yeah,
we'll get to that
you
a bit
haven't
later
even gotten
on.
over what I have decided to do for my bracket, which is get bored halfway through doing it and just start memeing most of it.
Is that what it is though?
Actually,
Okay.
Josh said it was a third of the way. He said
And
that.
a third of the way through, he's just like, whatever.
But
Start
as you
throwing
said,
numbers.
Yeah, just start throwing numbers. Joshi, as you said, we did get that one win for Maryville, but as you were also mentioning, we need to be just right there. Maybe I'm a little bit absurd with my picks, but we'll see.
I love this so
especially
far.
especially seeing three wins. I think that's positive. All right, maybe 10
Positive?
is a little bit far out in the future.
Did you see what XT said on the other
Yes,
series when
I
he was
did.
with
I
Gaz?
did.
4 series wins and 2 additional wins. So no, 3 additional. So it was at 11.
3.
Look, XT, I know you were been very active with Jake's Kittens and all that for this past season, but that's a little bit too much hopium there.
Oh no! Oh,
Not
no,
happens.
hopium.
Not
Well,
if we get a single series win. Actually, no, we'll probably get one series win of Amateur over Academy throughout this entire tournament. Is my expectation.
According to my bracket, I don't even know what's going on because I forgot what I put.
I remember a couple highlights, and we will go over them as we get there.
Yeah, there you go. But speaking of, a little bit of those standings, the wins for Academy and Amateur, we did put out a bracket. If you didn't know, we're doing August Absurdity, and we have a little bit of a bracket for you to do. Now, the bracket will end, or at least close submissions, as Champ Select goes live for the first game of the series today. So make sure you get all your submissions in and make sure you complete the bracket. Really, really huge shout out to Edgy Hoon for putting together the bracket, and absolutely incredible. All you have to do is put in the numbers, and that's it. It's so
really
easy.
cool.
I promise you, it's really, really easy. But guys, I'm gonna need you, everyone, audience, Joshi, Magical, put on goggles, get ready, because we're going to the Smacks Hopium Splash Zone here. Because I got to bring up his August Absurdity bracket, because he is absurd. Let alone did we see the 10 on that last graphic where he said Amateur was going to win 10 wins. But if you look at this, actually, I believe we counted
Gaming
14
beating
wins.
Immortals?
And I just want to say there's some spice
There's
in
some
here.
spice.
I do like.
Dignitas beating FlyQuest?
Yeah, yes.
What?
I think that there's a lot of hopium oozing. So as I said, you guys got to have your goggles on because it kind of splashes out. But you know, there's a lot of hopium to go around, and Smacks is definitely deliberate. I mean,
Except
I do
for the
like
winners.
The 3-0. I like the double 3-0 from Team Liquid.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I mean, that's kind of
bold.
fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, the actual rules don't say that you have to get the scores right. Only they have to get the
True.
winner right. So, you know, maybe he was trying to do it a little bit faster. But that's a lot of faith in Taco Gaming and 100 Thieves Next, which I think are absolutely our top two contenders coming in here from the amateur side of things. But taking down Evil Geniuses is, I think, a big ask. Immortals, they've kind of been slumping at the worst time, so it's not impossible for 100 Thieves to actually take that series. But Taco Gaming over Evil Geniuses as they're fighting their footing, it's definitely going to be a big ask, I think.
I'm glad you got your goggles on there, Magical. I think that, first of all, my thought process when you immediately say that Surdy ain't letting that happen. All right, that's all I'm saying. Surdy ain't letting that happen. But we got to talk a little bit about today, because we do have two simultaneous streams going, one on LCS, one on Academy, where we'll have two best of threes going on here on Stream A, twitch.tv/ not Path LCS, just LCS this time around.
Yes.
We got AOE Esports taking on Dignitas Academy in our first best of three. In our second best of three, we have TBA versus Team Liquid Honda Academy. Some very tall tasks for amateur this time around, and today will be needed to step up for both these two amateur teams, Joshi.
And can I say just how much of Citrus, the AOE logo, reminds me of? Right? I know that they have their second team, it's Area of Effect, and then AOE Ginger Turmeric, but I always thought it could have been AOE L'Orange. Right? You know, you got your lemon and your orange just right there in the logo. L'Orange?
Is that
sounds
an actual
French.
thing?
Orange
No,
lemonade?
It does sound French, but I feel like I feel like you're onto something here, Josh. I don't know if you need to be saying this on live broadcast.
Look, I don't have a
we can
marketing
make
degree, but I'm
something
still
here.
happy to do it for them. But we got to see how they do up against Dignitas, because I actually think if Amateur is going to find some early wins and some upsets, this actually might be one of the series that they do it.
Ooh, would be really interesting. But we do also, as we were saying, have a simultaneous stream going. We have another channel. It's twitch.tv/academy, where we'll have some bangers. We have the Ginger Turmeric AOE versus 100 Thieves Academy, and Cincinnati Fear taking on Cloud9 Academy as well, Magical.
I gotta say, rough games for amateur teams on that side. 100 Thieves are this crazy chaotic team going against a crazy chaotic team in the AOE Ginger Turmeric, which will be fun to watch, regardless of who wins. Even though I do favor 100 Thieves Academy, it will be a lot of fun because there's going to be a lot of space. And then the other series, Cincinnati Fear have had a little bit of a rough spot as of late. They've still been pretty good in Proving Grounds circuit qualifiers, but they have had a little bit of a stump going into the tail end of it. And they're going up against a pretty red-hot Cloud9, a team that has started looking, especially around copy, like they're getting themselves more into the form we expected them to be in.
Yeah, so I do want to set a little bit of expectations, though, for today, right? Remember, these are our top 4 Academy teams.
Yes.
These aren't just your run-of-the-mill Academy teams. This ain't your grandma's Academy team. These are the best teams that we're supposed to be able to offer. We should be expecting that today should mostly be rather quick for all the Academy teams, because this is how the bracket's shaken out, right? Your number 1 seed, 16, 2, and 15, and so on, right? These are the best teams that we have to offer going up against some of the lower-seeded teams.
I cannot wait. But that's also where there's that potential for upset and that potential for absolute spice to kick off round number 1 here. So it's very, very exciting. But if you want to follow any of that information, if you don't know that we have a Twitter, well, now's your chance to go follow and know that we have a Twitter, because it's at PathLCS on Twitter. It's where all of our content, where all of our information goes for this league, for Proving Grounds, for Academy, for NA Developmental. So please go drop a follow, go drop some love. It has been absolutely incredible. Yes, Joshi.
What else is there? There's a pinned tweet there for you, Lennon.
There's a pinned tweet for August Absurdity.
There you go. If you don't know where to do the bracket, you just got to go right on over to
We
the
did
Twitter.
it
It's the
again.
pinned tweet.
But yeah.
You can find it.
Hey, we have like 9 minutes or so
9
for you
minutes.
to go put that in. So make sure if
Yeah,
you're not
go
doing
quick,
it,
go
do
quick.
it now because you got a little bit of time. But we got to get to at Pathos. Yes, thank you, Magical. We got to get to our first best of 3 of the day.
Did Violet draw
Dignitas Academy. Yeah, did Violet draw that? Dignitas Academy versus AOE Esports. And first up foremost, I think it's been an interesting ride for AOE Esports. Obviously, AOE being pretty proud having 2 teams and Proving Grounds in total. I think that's obviously something super incredible as an organization. But for this roster in Pacific, Joshi, it's the pieces are there. Coming together, a little bit of a different question.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting to watch because on paper, this team has done quite well so far during the open qualifiers and during the circuit qualifiers, right? They went 5-0 in the most recent open qualifier. They went 4-1 in the first one. These guys have only lost to the teams that eventually won each of the circuit qualifiers. They got third in both of them. So this is a roster that has had a lot of success thus far, and I feel like so much of that has been built around the fact that they have a lot of players who have already had opportunities to play at the academy level or better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, and absolutely, you have to look at one in particular as well, a player that's really been a standout. But something we have to focus on today, it's got to be the mid laner, young mid Magical.
Young mid, as many people might know him by, has just been absolutely performing out of his mind. Like, you see that he was originally a Syndra one trick, but if you look at what he's been playing as of late, you would think that he never even knew how to play Syndra. He's not playing that control mage style. He's playing the melee bruisers. He's playing the assassins. He is going crazy. Even how he plays Zoe, it's just the perfect positioning to utilize that Zoe Paddlestar to the fullest effect every single time. And I just love how it's mostly around that. It's hard to teach players to get proper positioning in fights, especially around something like Zoe. And to see, yes, you can get the memes in now, but everyone in Twitch chat. But it's just really impressive to see how he's able to play with this champion and also have this myriad of different styles he's been more practiced on nowadays, as opposed to just going for purely control mage.
Yeah, and I also think it's worth noting that while we saw on his player card his peak PG performance was qualifying, they actually got 13th. They made it past the playing stage the last time coming in the previous Proving Grounds, and now they're trying to outplace that. It's going to be difficult in their very first series, but after that, I think this team could potentially make a much deeper run in the lower bracket.
I do want to highlight something we were talking about before the show started, though, or at least toss to you for Joshi, because you have a little bit of an interesting story to tell about this bottom lane, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got a couple of them, right? Lynx and Skytech, I actually ran into them in an ARAM the day that they were announced that they were joining AOE, and I instantly come out, I was like, oh my gosh, is that Skytech, the one and only AOE support? And he's like, oh yeah, also this guy's Lynx, who was on a completely alternate account, and he's just like, dude, why you gotta out me like that? I was trying to hide, I didn't want anybody to recognize me in this ARAM, which we did end up winning, but yeah, that was the first time I actually saw them both playing together. But the other thing, the thing I think you wanted me to talk about, Lynx knocked Skytech out of the last Proving Grounds, actually. When he was on Taco Gaming, they were able to upset Evil Genius's Academy, and so Skytech now playing with the man who eliminated him from the previous Proving Grounds.
I just think it's always such a fun little story to have, but I appreciate the ARAM win. You got to get those dubs. I mean, you got to get those dubs. I'm just waiting for them to put the title from Wild Rift into actual ARAM. Anyways, across the board from AOE Esports, we have Dignitas Academy. And for them, I think, obviously, a lot of upheaval in the late part of the season with the promotions from the Academy roster to the LCS roster, a lot of movement in that way. And I think you have to kind of divvy up your expectations a little bit when you're looking at this roster now, Magical.
Yeah, and this is kind of why I actually expect this to be one of the few series that we have in the upper bracket where one of the amateur teams will pick up a win. I don't think it's going to be a series, but I do think that they have the potential to pick up a win, and it's nothing to say against these players. It's the fact that it is essentially a newish roster, one of many that Dignitas has gone through this split alone, and having to get that synergy pretty quickly right into Proving Grounds, where it's a lot more pressure. You have to have much more, more grit to yourself if you want to be able to battle back. I think Insanity has got more than enough of that. This guy has been playing super well, but the rest of the team kind of has to coalesce around him.
And I'll be straight up, I think that this Dignitas Academy roster is not as strong as the one that we saw throughout the majority of the split, right? With Hoon, XU, and Spawn playing in place of Gamsu, Perry, and Neo, I feel as though this Dignitas team is still trying to find its footing. We have a lot of players who are a little bit more mature in their careers, but aren't necessarily likely to hit the same kind of peaks as we saw from their previous players. And Perry, one of the few players that I look at coming in that I'm actually very excited for about how their growth might come.
Kane.
That's all you got. You just interrupt his great points for Kane. Hey, I could appreciate
You mentioned Perry.
that,
I gotta chant
yeah,
Kane.
you got to throw the Kane in there. I think Perry is something you have to watch out for in terms of development in the academy system now as well, that he's getting the shot. So absolutely huge props to him. But again, you got to go back to the main man in the mid lane, and you got to look at Insanity. This guy who's had a lot of experience across the board, but here has really been a solid piece, Joshi, for Dignitas Academy.
Yeah, we know that Insanity has had opportunities to play at the LCS level. He's definitely a player that was doing okay during most of the summer split, but has really come into his own once again and has started taking over a lot of games and even allowed them to take games off of Team Liquid, right? We have seen that Insanity has what it takes in order to go to the next level. He just needs to showcase that he can do that consistently.
And I think that when we look at Insanity, how he plays, it's this fun, aggressive style that's really been fitting him the best, where he's able to dive in, go for plays that nobody else is risking to go for, and that's why I like watching him play. It's just, I think in this clip alone, it's when he gets the double kill against Team Liquid, and it's part of it is him diving with less than like 200 health onto Armeo, which is absolutely insane, but I am here for it all the way.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my cowboy hat the whole time I'm watching Insanity play the game at this point. But it's just actually incredible to see him pick apart fights a lot of time. You see the mechanical skill this guy was lauded for, Joshi.
Yeah, and we definitely know that Insanity, as a player, he's been playing for a long time, right? He was on the Team Liquid roster that had a lot of success in previous years. One of my favorite players, and also a great trash talker.
Also, like Insanity, I want to give a lot of credit to with how he's been performing really in this year, because this is a player who did get a stint in LCS. He was at the level he had been striving to achieve for years, and when he got there, he didn't have the best performance. It wasn't his best one. I don't think he was terrible.
He was fine.
Exactly, he was just fine. But we see that this is a very different Insanity than we saw back then. You look at how he played just last split when he was on 100 Thieves Next. He was far more aggressive. You look at how he's been playing this summer. Far more aggressive. He really is trying to prove that he deserves to be back in the LCS.
Yeah, we actually got to hear a little bit from him as well. So let's go ahead and hear what Insanity had to say.
I realized mid laners in LCS are pretty shit. And a lot of mid laners in Academy could probably compete or, you know, be better than some of the mid laners in LCS.
Yeehaw, my friend. Just come right out and say it.
I like it.
And I can appreciate that
I like
because getting right to the point, knowing that he has experienced that moment and feeling like that competitiveness is right there, right? But when you're looking at Sandy, obviously we've talked so much about him being a rock. Joshi, we got to talk about those pieces and how they integrate them, especially the new pieces, right? You were talking about Perry, Gamsu, even Neo.
Yeah.
How do you expect this roster to try to come together with such short notice, and what do you think the big moments will be for this roster?
Well, typically when I look at rosters, I try and judge on who's going to be the big carry pieces, who are going to be your playmakers. And previously, that was XU, right? I was looking at XU as being one of the big playmakers, but now it's really putting a lot more pressure onto Insanity in order to try and make those plays. Neo's not going to do it. Gamsu's not going to do it. So you're going to have to really create a lot of pressure in the mid lane. Insanity is a player who can pop off, who will be looking for these angles. And Perry, he's a very intelligent player, but he's not necessarily the kind of player who's going to pop off all on his own. It's really going to depend on how well Insanity and Perry have built up synergy over the past couple weeks in order to get advantages in the mid lane and transfer that into the jungle.
Are we going to get a 1v5 Gamsu Aatrox play again in the bottom lane?
Probably not.
Probably not. But like, if I'm looking at AOE, I am actually really curious about how Zamudo does in that top lane against Gamsu, because this is a player that has been really hyped up. If you look at anything Proving Grounds related for quite some time, this guy has gotten a lot of notoriety just because he's a fun and interesting player, and I'm always down for that. I always like players that will play to their heart's content the way they want to play, and now he's got to go into someone who's pretty much just a rock in the top lane.
Yep, we got to see whose rock will stand the test of time here as we are ready for our first champ select of the day. So Joshi, Magical, Let's have some fun.
Yes, we will. That we will.
Don't tell me
Getting
what to
into
do.
Champion Select for our first day of technically not the play-ins, but it is not the first day of Proving Grounds. It's just the first day of the double elimination. You get what I'm saying. Getting into this, Dignitas Academy versus AOE Esports. Banning Fiora first towards Zamudo. I was talking about how he tends to have the style that he plays on his own. It's reminiscent of how Tenacity plays.
Yeah, Zamudo's been a very dominant top laner from what we've been seeing in the amateur scene, right? He really likes having a lot of opportunities to go for his own carries, and he's actually been very helpful, right? I've been playing in this rec league recently, and he's been helping out my top laner, and, well, my top laner said not to say it, you know, after 25 times, eventually, my own top laner, Bayara, was able to find a single solo kill after 25 losses. So, it is still an opportunity, right, where Zamudo has a lot of opportunities to be really aggressive. He loves going for the dives, and he loves looking for opportunities to upset his opponents.
But looking at the draft so far, Neo grabbing that Aphelios, something that has helped out Dignitas, especially if you look at the last day of Week 7 that they're able to pilot. But the not gameplay, but the Tom Kench taken away. Skytech not having his faithful recon, that already got banned away. Pretty much expected towards Skytech. This gives that bot lane a lot of safety.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Tom Kench has been one of the best champions on the patch for a while, right? He's been so able to help out a lot of positioning mistakes from a lot of players. And now Dignitas, they're going to be in a position where they have to really try and create pressure up against Lynx. But the Volibear coming through for parry, this is something that he also likes to play, especially when the Kane's gone, right? He loves creating this pressure. He loves going for a lot of these early gangs. And now you also have the Braum to come through to kind of shut down a lot of aggression that Tom Kench likes to go for.
The thing that just baffles me is the Kane was open. They could have easily grabbed that if they wanted to, but instead they grabbed Parry, Volibear, something that is going to be more of an engaged type jungler for the team, and then Young blind picking that Zoe.
Yeah, very surprised to see this coming through, especially up against the Braum, right? It's a little bit harder to actually find all of these opportunities, but you just saw how confident he was feeling earlier on with the ability to play this, how aggressive he has been going across the board, and now AoE, they have this very strong base of damage that they can play around, and they have some pick tools to try and find individual members of Dignitas. So Dignitas, they feel a little bit pressured in order to try and make some of these things happen in the mid game before Jinx really takes over.
So I'm looking now at the second part of bans, getting a good amount of top lane focus from both sides. The Gnar, Gomsu's most played champion in his entire career. Not too surprised to see that taken off of the table. But Gwen, especially with the kind of mini rework and just retooling some of her power into more later game fights, has been something that has been slowly rising in priority. So I'm not too surprised to see that ban, but I'm curious to see if we see any sort of jungle bans levied by Dignitas, since that jungle for Winnie has not been picked.
I mean, it's hard, right? Winston, or Winnie, I'm so used to calling him Winston. He's been playing for so long at this point.
For people who don't know, Winnie, a.k.a. Winston, has been playing for a long time, has actually even been in Academy previously.
Yeah, and so now we're going to see him come through. He can play a lot of different styles, right? I remember during the last split that we actually saw him, or maybe this was last year, but he was saying, I'm the best jungler that is currently an amateur. If I don't get a spot in Academy, I'm not really sure what more I can do. And now... Olaf?
Oh. No, Olaf is actually something more likely to go into Zamudo's hands than it is into Winnie's, because Zamudo actually really likes to play that Olaf, especially if certain champions are taken off of the table, such as Gnar, which there it is, locking in blind Olaf that technically has flex, but we expect it top lane.
Almost definitely going to be going over to Zamudo, and we've definitely been seeing, right, if there's one lane that I feel as though AoE should have an advantage, it's actually going to be this one. Gomsu, we've described him a lot as a rock, but it's typically, he's not necessarily creating a whole lot of pressure on his own, and it is going to be the Aatrox coming through. We said Dignitas needed to find ways to find plays in the mid game. Aatrox is definitely a character that can do that, but he's going to get run down pretty heavily. This is not a matchup that's easy for Gomsu to play.
No, but I think it was Marcel that was saying, do we get the 1v5 Gomsu Aatrox again? We'll lock that into Olaf. It is a rough laning phase, that is for sure. That's where we'll kind of have to keep our eyes on how Zamudo is going to be able to play that, this rookie going up against such a tenured veteran in the top lane. Well, Insanity, one of those comfort picks in Azir, locked in and ready to go.
Yeah. Definitely a bit surprising to opt into the Azir versus Zoe. This matchup can be really aggressive for Zoe, right? As long as you are using your passive correctly, as long as you are very active with your summoner spells, you can be very aggressive. But you have way more consistent teamfight damage as the Azir during all of these fights. And so Dignitas, they're now trying to play these slower fights.
It is an Olaf jungle. Okay. They have actually flexed. I'm a bit surprised by that, and putting Zamudo onto Ornn in this top lane. Something that is just a neutralizing top laner that's not going to be too interactive. Does still have good level 1 through 3 to fight against Aatrox.
Yeah. This must be a counterpick to the Volibear, right? The Olaf was historically something that did quite well whenever you had to go up into Volibear, because Volibear just has like the one stun. He comes in, he slaps you down, and then he just hits you. But Olaf is way better at just hitting you. After that, you can just take these really long fights very effectively. And so, AOE, they've come up with a very standard composition for themselves. They're playing up into Dignitas, and so you would think, like, your default way of thinking about this is that this should favor the Academy team because they're a lot more experienced players across the board.
So now, if there's one thing I'm going to expect going into this game, it's the level 2, level 3 skirmish out of Winnie. We've seen many times, if you actually think back to even last spring in Proving Grounds, think back to last year as well, he always liked to look for those early aggressive plays, try to utilize something like Olaf to find ways to punish the opponent as early as possible.
Yeah. And so, I'm really looking towards AOE. Again, I think this matchup is very winnable for them, which is not something I was expecting to see on this first day, but with all the changes that Dignitas has seen, this AOE roster has been together for longer. They have been very strong in the amateur scene. Again, getting third in both circuit qualifiers, getting first in one of the open qualifiers, and going 4-1, tying for second in the last one.
But I hear our game is ready, our first best of 3 that is not in the play-ins. Getting ready to go underway between AOE Esports and Dignitas Academy. Can Amateur strike early at the heart of Academy, or will Academy make sure that they put Amateur in their place?
Well, it's time to find out, right? Because it is a fairly synergistic roster coming out from AOE, right? We already talked about how they've been playing well together, but it's also worth noting that a lot of these players have been playing at the University of Western Ontario together, right? Winnie, Lynx, and Skytech have all been on different permutations of the Western squad where they have had a fair amount of success, right? While they aren't necessarily the same kind of UST squad that we're going to be seeing a little bit later today, they still were managing to get 5th in CWOL this last year, and they got 9th of the year before when playing alongside Gorka, right? This is a roster that has a lot of pieces that have played together for a long time.
Remember, that was Gorka top lane, too. Gorka was not playing his main role.
Yeah.
The fact they
also, didn't they offer Lynx for that as well?
Yes,
Wasn't he playing support?
I think he was. So it just shows you that these players have a lot of skills in varied roles that they can bust out at any point. And not even just in this game. We'll see Gorka on a future stream as well. But looking at this one, have a little bit of skirmishing back and forth. Gamsu trying to get the better end of Zamudo right out of the gates. We'll just get a little tap there, but it's nothing that Ornn can't heal up from.
Yeah. Also, I want to point something out because it is funny to exactly me and a couple other people, but Zamudo opting to go with the Ignite. No flash on this Ornn, right? He doesn't even have the Unsealed Spellbook. He's never going to have a flash. This entire point, he is here to kill Gamsu.
So I will say, I respect it, but now he can't flash as an aggressive summoner spell, and I am a little bummed by that.
Well, you can still set them on fire. Is that not enough?
Well, cool guys don't look at the explosion, so as long as he walks away while he's burning.
Okay, well, we will watch out for that from Zamudo. He definitely loves playing for his lane. He loves being very aggressive, and I can definitely see some of the influences he has had on some of the players that I've been playing with. But just watch out for this one, right? Because typically, this is not a matchup where Ornn will have a lot of kill pressure all on his own. It really has been very dependent on what summoner spells he goes for, and building like this does mean that I feel like Winnie might even have more opportunities to come towards the top side in order to find that first kill for Zamudo.
So I want to touch on this just because I know our observers were making a point of it. There's a nice ward that was placed down by Young right outside of both brushes by the Pixel ward that actually will give a lot of information for Young in case Perry does show up, expecting that that will be the lane that the jungler is going to go for since he started on the bottom half of the map.
Yeah, and Perry, you know, he's not necessarily the same kind of aggressive jungler. He's a much more calculated, controlled jungler in the same style as Enda and Armeo. He likes to have a lot more control, and you see him going for a full clear right now. He will end up on the top side of the map, and this is where players like Enda and Armeo will try and make the dive happen.
I'm curious to see if Perry is going to learn from them and look for the dive. It is Zamudo, who doesn't have very much mana, has at least some health to his name. It's not the easiest thing to dive an Ornn, even if he doesn't have flash. It's always risky.
And so, as the wave does get cleared out, the window will be closing. And that gives us a little bit more time to look at how bottom lane has been going, right? We have also been seeing Neo as another player that has come down, has been replaced by Spawn in the LCS. And Neo's been one of these players who has been consistently consistent over a long period of time, right? He does his job, but he won't necessarily step forward. He won't miss out on a lot of damage, but he's typically going to be the kind of guy who you are really looking at to just be able to hit during all these team fights. He's always able to get the damage off, and so as we see this early game start to shake out, I'm always expecting Lynx and Skytech to be more aggressive early on in this game.
Wait and see if they try to pull that trigger, try to see if they can get on top of Neo. At the moment, struggling just a little bit, but let's turn our attention to the jungle. We haven't really gotten to talk about this too much, and we were kind of looking at Winnie and how he was going to be able to play. I was expecting a 2-3 skirmish out of him, looking for parry. But right now, just happy and content, farming it out.
And both of them just going for, you know, very heavy farm routes, right? Perry going to be getting the Krugs and the Raptors as well, right? Winnie also doing the Raptor Star, so he's going to be power farming very heavily. And it is a little bit of a different style coming in from AOE, right? Going up against most Academy teams, the difference is rarely going to be the laning. Right, the laning phase is usually not going to be that different between a lot of the mids, or excuse me, the lanes and both teams. It really comes down to how they make decisions a little bit later on in the game. And now, Perry, you know, he's controlling his own Raptors. He does need to be a little bit careful about how he can actually take these, because he doesn't have Insanity around.
No, and I think that's why Winnie stuck around for so long, understanding there wasn't that potential for a rotation out of Insanity. But once you get kind of some pings from Young saying, hey, he might be back now, be careful, that's where you started seeing him path out. Plus, you also have JJ, who is on the rotation out while the bot lane of AOE got a reset.
Oh, okay. First gank.
First gank, but that's going to be the Rocket Belt away. Looking to tag with the Winter's Bite. Does connect that one. Flash away from Young. Should survive.
That is going to be a flash going out, though. JJ does come through. He knows he doesn't need to be bottom lane right now. And so JJ, with the first move, will have a bit more control on the map.
I also like that there were no flashes burned by Dignitas, because obviously Zoe being able to pick him up would have made it all for naught. Even if you can get that flash out of Zoe, Zoe would have that potential for the next coming minutes to survive that. But withholding that makes it so Dignitas can gain more control on the bottom quadrant of this map, looking around this Hextech Dragon.
Oh, he didn't bonk him in time when he actually gets the recall off. But seeing that the recall has gone through, Dignitas will be starting up the Dragon. And this is, again, this is kind of where we're expecting the difference to come through. Dignitas is a little bit more proactive on the map. They've been a little bit better about rotating immediately in the game, and that will give them a small advantage to start off. It's only about 500 right now, but this is something that can continue to grow based on the pressure that Perry will be able to exert. So it's on AOE. Again, they're really coming alive in the mid game.
Young has got a lot of attention. Flashless, dashless, Zoe bubble connecting, ignite ticking. First blood for Insanity with all four members there. Winnie cannot fight back.
And there you go. That's Dignitas exerting pressure on the board. They saw that Lynx and Skytech, they were not pushing very quickly, and that gives Neo and JJ an opportunity to walk into the mid lane. Dignitas really taking advantage of some of the things that AOE were likely to do. I love the fact that they're already proactive on the map, and they're not even going to lose anything, because Lynx and Skytech, by the time they realized the die was going off, they couldn't push fast enough.
No, it was a great play. Just look at how they set it up. They have three on the flank here. Winnie is on the other side, so and even if Winnie shows up, there's nothing he could do to save Young.
Yeah, he would just be another death, right? He throws in an axe like, well, I guess there's nothing further. Maybe he could have tried to chase down JJ, but no play ends up coming through. And Dignitas, with the first blood, also going to catch most of this wave. And so, suddenly, Neo already level 6. Could potentially look for Dignitas to be aggressive here.
Looking to see when they're going to activate that aggression. You talked before how there is good mid-game setup for the side of Dignitas, especially when we look at Gomsu in the top lane on Aatrox. A bridge a bit for an Azir and Aphelios into the late game. Gomsu has pretty much been on this island by himself, and he even spots out Winnie nearby. So he'll just be able to walk right past Winnie's like, all right, I guess I'll catch some of the waves so we can freeze it.
Okay, does Winnie take this farm, or does he give it over to Zamudo? Okay, not going to fully carry his mind of the wave. Instead, just setting it up perfectly for a 1Q from Zamudo. That's what we like to see in our junglers. And Dignitas, they have a little bit of a lack of pressure right now, right? They spent so much time going for that last play that now AOE is still in control of the map. They're trying to make a play for this blue buff.
And they're going to spot it out. There's Gamsu. Oh no, Gamsu World Ender is popped, but look at the damage. Call of the Forge God. Gonna not get the knockup, but they already got the Ignite ticking on a Gamsu who has to run away. If they got the knockup coming in from Zamudo, as Winnie is alive. Undertow connects. Perry is still looking to chase them down, but Young is on the other side. Paddlestar will connect. Picked up the flash as well, but then Insanity showing up. It will save the life of Perry. And Dignitas, they all live?
Nobody goes down. That's a bunch of flashes blown, a bunch of summer spells used, but everybody lives. Gamsu, a little bit over aggressive, right? Trying to find his way in, maybe not remembering the fact that Zamudo actually has that Ignite. The healing wasn't going to be coming through, and so ends up being a bit of an over aggressive play. I feel like Dignitas could have made that even better, but they defend their blue buff, they don't give anything up, and so the gold lead remains steady at about 500 at this point. AOE not able to find purchase into the game.
But let's look at AOE and when they can find that purchase to get themselves, I mean, honestly, they're not that far behind, right? It's not even 1,000. We're not 9.5 minutes into the game. That's easily something you can come back from. So let's look at the ways that AOE can come back into this game. What are the certain positions, certain roles that have some sort of an edge at the moment you expect to give AOE that advantage?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be around the next couple of dragons, right? Dignitas are going to be trying to set up. They have a very traditional front-to-back team fight that they want to try and go for. And it's going to be on them to try and get there first. This is definitely a position where Dignitas want to try and make plays around these objectives before AOE can respond. AOE, well, they've been good at macro relative to a lot of the amateur teams. It's definitely been up against weaker competition than what Dignitas has had to play against.
At the moment, Dignitas getting a pretty good advantage, holding on to that pretty strong. Getting Rift Herald as well. That's the second neutral objective picked up by Dignitas. Looking rough for AOE. Looking rough for them to play around those neutrals that you were kind of talking about.
It's not all doom and gloom just yet, though, right? Just as you were saying, they're not that far behind, and this is definitely a pretty good spot for the members of AOE. They are definitely within striking distance.
Well, this might not be the best point. They got the Graviton, they've got the connection, and concussive blows doesn't even matter. Neo picks up the kill.
Great cue from JJ Wright, getting that little bit of a slow, forcing Lynx to stand and fight, take the DPS check, and he's dying at the worst time. Neo still has all of his summoner spells, and Winnie feels like he needs to make something happen on the other side.
They've got to get something to go right for them. But now that both ults are up for the top laners, World Ender and having called the Forge God, we turn our attention to mid. Young, what happened, bro?
Uh-oh, didn't even see the beginning of that, but he has no flash, and now Gamsu, he has to know the play's here.
It's got to be something for AOE. Something's got to go right. It looks like top lane is their option, but Winnie took too much damage. Gamsu, he's doing it again.
No. Oh, I feel like all these small skill checks are just going over to Dignitas right now, and again, happening at the worst possible time. Multiple members of AOE dying right before the dragon. Neo, JJ will just walk right on over. Perry's there as well. They drop the Rift Herald. They get a ton of these plates off. They get the dragon, and suddenly, again, we're saying it's not the laning. The laning is not the difference between Academy and Amateur for the most part. There's obviously exceptions to that, but Dignitas, they now have so much control on them.
They've got pretty much every single lane of theirs winning. That's the third neutral objective secured by Dignitas. Another that AOE can't even try to contest. And okay, now it's starting to look a little bit doom and gloom, isn't it, Josh?
It's a little bit more doom and gloom, but you know, this is. I don't want to say this is entirely expected because I did feel as though AOE were going to be one of our teams that could contest. But even though Dignitas are winning, I feel like it is kind of our job at this point, Alex, to try and help sell a lot of these amateur players still, right? Because you know, we got these Dignitas players. We've been seeing them all split long. And for anybody who's tuning in for Proving Grounds and hasn't seen Academy, Dignitas has been consistently kind of the bar by which we've been measuring the other Academy teams. They beat the teams that are below them in the standings, and they lose to the teams that are above them. They're very much the gatekeepers towards the top half of the standings. Whereas the AOE squad, they're relatively new if you don't watch anything below the Academy scene.
Well, some of them are relatively new, but as a whole, you're right. And now bot lane, Zamudo, it's just unfortunate that you showed up into the wrong lane.
Yeah. I am curious, though, also what Elton XE was on yesterday. He said that there were going to be so many wins coming through.
I love love it. Wait, we got
Maybe not feeling the best.
That's going to be a nice Emperor's Divide as you got parry and stasis. Wait, AOE, they might be able to come back. No, Gamsu says, no way are you coming back in this game. I am Big Aatrox. Double kill for myself. I'm 2 more dead, making a complete ace.
All right, do we want to call time of death? 13.5 minutes?
13.5 minutes.
All right, 13.5 minutes. All right, it's time to talk about the history of players, Alex, because we have a lot going on through here, right? Because a lot of our players on both sides have made their way through the amateur system. And as we take a look at this replay, it is AOE just feeling as though they need to make something happen, but they don't really have a good opportunity to actually be aggressive. And as soon as Gamsu re-attacks, it's just over. He's so strong. This is exactly what Aatrox is designed to do. But with that in mind, I do kind of want to go back down memory lane a little bit, right? Because we did actually see Gamsu. He spent a lot of time in the amateur scene as well, right?
Yeah.
He was on the 100 Thieves Next roster that did, decently well in Proving Grounds, and then he subbed in for 100 Thieves Academy as well towards the end of Proving Grounds and was able to actually win the inaugural one.
And let's just talk about Gamsu in general. This guy, maybe his seasons aren't the best, but for some reason, every single time you get to any sort of playoff position where there's a lot of pressure on the line, he always steps up. And you can now see that he almost was able to just take out Lynx and Skytech by himself.
Yeah, there's something about being in a bracket stage that seems to reinvigorate him over and over again. And I wasn't particularly impressed with his play in the second round robin of spring, but then he turned it on. They got to Proving Grounds, and they were looking quite strong there as well. And Insanity.
During the shuffle,
A-okay.
but here comes the call of the Forge God. Nice Emperor's Divide to make sure they
Can't run
get
through.
They're stuck. You got no ghost, both of you. This is what happens. You suffer your own consequences. You can't flash forward.
Oh no, are these the consequences of my own decisions? That's
No,
unlucky.
it must be the children.
It must be Insanity who was wrong.
Yeah, there it is. Thank you.
But yeah, Winnie's another player that I kind of want to zoom in on as well, right? Because he has been a player that has been one of the best junglers that we've had in the amateur space for quite a while, right? I think back to when the conversation was basically between him and Fnatic, which one of them was actually the best jungler, and now
Guys,
it feels like he's trying to make plays.
It didn't work last time. You should have just left him alone. You poked the bird. It's the bird. He's fighting back and clawing at your face. Even if you got Ragnarok, he's over the wall. He's got soldiers to do his bidding. With a double kill and Gamsu there to chase down. They tagged him with Winter's Bright, and they've got a rampage for Gamsu.
Wow. Wow. I'm sorry, Dignitas. I'm sorry I thought this was going to be one of the closer ones. One of the closer series.
You know, hey, I'm always happy to be proven wrong. I'm always happy for a team to come and perform like this, where they are on the verge of a perfect game. They have lost no neutrals, no turrets, no deaths to their name, and they are up 10,000 gold. Okay, make it more than 10,000 gold at just the 16.5 minute mark.
Right? Remember, we set an Academy record earlier this year with Team Liquid Academy taking down Immortals Academy in 18.5 minutes. I don't know if we're on track for that just quite yet, because to say that the game ends in 2 minutes is still a lot, right? They still have to break into the base, and Dignitas, are they aggressive enough to do that?
Josh, they have literally been winning uneven fights this entire game.
Yeah, but they're not diving for the fights.
I beg to differ right there.
There was one where they had to dive underneath the turret, and there was a 4v1.
But I also would beg to differ right there. Insanity was definitely playing aggressively.
There's
He knew,
definitively not a turret there, Alex.
but he also
Come
knew
on.
Winnie was there, and he still played for it.
Winnie's not a
I'm gonna
turret.
hype up Insanity. You're not gonna stop me. He's got 24 stacks in his Magi's, and I'm here to stand Insanity.
So you're saying the game ends the next minute and a half?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll see what happens. We'll see if you'd be willing to bet your hair on that.
Okay, not if I have to cut it off.
Not your hair.
No, not if I have to cut it. I'll dye the hair. But I will not cut it off. I am not Steve.
Okay. Well, if the game ends by the 19-minute mark, I'll go blonde for you.
Okay.
For the Dignitas colors.
I'll go blonde for you too.
Okay. Sounds good.
No, like
now-
I'll actually bleach the hair blonde. I'll make it like a bright blonde.
It's been interesting to listen to like the Dignitas players talk though, right? Because as they go for a dive,
No, they're just going for kills. There's no turret. Omewrecker, 100% win rate. You gotta bring it back up anytime Volibear is back in the meta because they're getting a lot of damage onto that poor catfish, noodled to death by Neo.
noodle to death. Yeah, Insanity, it's been looking quite good, but I also want to look at JJ real quick, right? Because I feel like he had such a big impact in the way that Spawn, who's now playing the LCS, has actually grown as a player as they dive past the turret.
They're looking for winning.
Get him?
They've got Concussive Blows, but he's got Ragnarok, but that damage, that burn, legendary status for Insanity.
Oh!
Nah, not even close, baby. Not even close.
That feels bad, man. If Lynx was level 11, that definitely would have killed JJ, but only level 10, only a single completed
looks
item.
like I'm going Bleach.
All right,
Yeah.
let's do it. Can't
Yeah.
wait.
Because with 10 seconds, they reset.
10 seconds left?
I can't do it. Yep. Dignitas, why'd you have to do this to me? I can't believe you've done this.
Can't believe you have to go blonder.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe you've done this. It's outrageous.
Yeah, let's like, Alex, I kind of want to think about like how far we're actually expecting AOE to go, as I think Skytech just dies here, probably.
Not probably. He's dead. Is very much dead. He got eaten. It's, you know, bear with salmon swimming upstream. Just sees them, and it's just a feeding frenzy.
Yep. But how far do you actually expect AOE to be able to go in this bracket?
You know, initially, I was actually giving him a little bit more hope, and I thought they might have a chance of winning in the lower bracket, at least one series. But now, just how much Dignitas is absolutely outgunning and outrunning them in this map. I might have been wrong. Maybe my word predictions of also looking to troll just are way off unless you get some sort of miracle play. And I'm talking miracle play AoE. You've got to somehow kill Neo. You somehow got to kill Gomsi before he can do anything. They flash away, and that Shurima shuffle out of Insanity. Make sure there is no hope, no miracle for AoE. It is all Dignitas Academy.
Oh, Dignitas. They're just waiting for Insanity to come through. They still have Shelly. They're dropping it. This should be the actual end of the game as they just chase down Skytech underneath another turret. Shelly might even get a chance to dance in this one, Alex.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see if we get the dance. Low death timers, but honestly, I don't think it matters. Young's got 7 seconds till he's up, 5 seconds on Lynx. There's going to be another charge. Boop. Get another charge. Or,
Shelly!
no, no!
No! What? Okay, well, thank you for that, Alex. Unfortunately, we don't get to see Shelly dancing, but Dignitas do, in fact, perfect game AoE in their first foray here into Proving Grounds. Dignitas playing way better than I was expecting them to actually do. I feel like they won a couple of skill checks early on, and then once every lane was winning, they just had so much confidence, right? We didn't necessarily ever see the transition to the even game of a situation where both teams are jockeying over the dragons, where both teams are like lining up to go for all of these sieges. This just felt like total domination across the board. No single player on AoE was able to find purchase.
Maybe we got a little spoiled from yesterday. Looking at the plans, most of the early games, especially the first 15 minutes for these amateur teams, was them fighting back valiantly. It looked really close for many parts of the game until we got to the mid game when Academy kept taking over. Today, it was just all Academy.
Started early.
Dignitas absolutely crushed AoE. So we're going to toss it to a break. When we come back, we'll have our host Bazell here for another halftime show, or is it like a third time show? It depends if we get another game. Anyways, we'll be back.